Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair for joining for the ICNA's weekly study circle. Today, inshallah, we will be um, studying the Surah Al-Araaf, verses 127 to 137. Um, and inshallah, these verses will be covered by Sheikh Abdur Rahman. Um, inshallah, without any further ado, I would like to hand it over to Sheikh Abdur Rahman.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. My dear respected viewers and listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today inshallah we will do verses 127 to 137 of Surah Al-Araaf, and verse 127, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقال الملأ من قوم فرعون أتذر موسى وقومه ليفسدوا في الأرض ويذرك وآلهتك قال سنقتل أبناءهم ونستحيي نساءهم وإنا فوقهم قاهرون. So they said, the chiefs of Pharaoh, people said, will you allow Moses and his people to spread mischief in the land and to forsake you and your gods? And he, Pharaoh, said, we will kill their sons and spare their women, and we have indeed absolute power over them. Now, remember last week we talked about how Pharaoh lost in front of everybody. He lost that challenge that he gave to Prophet Musa alayhi salam, where all his magicians came. And in fact, his magicians, in front of the eyes of everyone, surrendered to Allah. And he threatened them. He's going to cut their hands and feet from the opposite side and hang them on a cross for everybody to see the punishment. And they said, we don't care. We are returning to Allah. We are convinced that what uh, Prophet Musa came with is correct. And he said, oh, he is the one who taught you all of that. So now that phase is over with his magicians. So some of the chiefs in general, and this is something that we see with dictators around the world, some of their chiefs and generals and hypocrites of brutal dictators are just as evil as the dictator themselves. So don't think that they're always forced to say things or do things. Here, these chiefs in general of Pharaoh, after Pharaoh lost the challenge, so now their attention is turned to Prophet Musa and Bani Israel. So what to do with them? Because these are people who now believe and strengthen their belief what has just taken place. And so the evil advisor said to Pharaoh, will you leave Musa to corrupt the people and spread mischief in the land? Now, subhanallah, this is the evilest of people are saying, will you leave Musa to corrupt the people and spread mischief in the land? So they call guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corruption. And it is because they are at the other end of the spectrum, the total evil side of that spectrum, that Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, and the children of Israel, they view them now as challengers. They view them now as corrupt people. And so, meanwhile, Pharaoh, having gotten this suggestion from these advisors, is willing to carry out any torture. And so he come up with this form of punishment once again. And in the next verse, we will talk a little more of that. قال سنقتل أبناءهم ونستحيي نساءهم وإنا فوقهم قاهرون. So let us slaughter their sons, something which they did before when Musa was a baby and grew up in his house. So he didn't learn from that. So once again, let us slaughter their sons and leave their daughters alive. And we have full power over them, as most brutal leaders in the world today. They forget that there is one more powerful than them, the creator. So they feel that because the army is with them, because they pass the order and inflict so much of punishment on their people, that it is now, they feel that they have the full authority, the full strength, and we can do whatever we want to do with them now. And so verse 128, Allah tells us, قال موسى لقومه استعينوا بالله واصبروا إن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده والعاقبة للمتقين. So Musa is saying to his people, seek help. Seek help from Allah and be patient. Surely the land, the inheritance of this land belongs to Allah. Everything belongs to Allah, and He causes to inherit it whom He wills of His servant, and the best course and the best outcome is for those who are God fearing and righteous. Now, so this is Prophet Musa only strength at this point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because how can you, the people are already weak after centuries of being enslaved under Pharaoh and his generals. And Musa alayhi salatu wasalam come and triumph over them, but he doesn't have anybody that can challenge Pharaoh. And so he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is again a lesson for us. And this is the true meaning of putting one's trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That with all the threats and after witnessing people were crucified, your only course of strength is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We live in a world today that we are seeing some of this heroic attitude, that people, Muslims, are suffering so much at the hands of brutal dictators, and there is not much they can do, and there's not much anybody is doing. And so putting our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this point in time, as we have seen from Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And so he reminds them that, look, this earth belongs to Allah and not to Pharaoh. Innal arda lillah. This earth belongs to Allah. These uh, dictators that we see around us that brutally persecute Muslims, they also need to be reminded that this earth belongs to Allah. They will die one day. Nobody has lived here for forever. Everybody come, everybody will go, and your name will go down in history as a brutal dictator. So every time people remember the name of a brutal dictator, they will say some lana or curse of Allah be on that person, and they will have to endure that in their grave until the day of judgment, and the worst is yet to come for them. And Allah will give this earth to whomever He pleases. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The end result, both in this world and the next world, as Allah says, تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ نَجْعَلُهَا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلْوًا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فَسَادًا وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That the life of the hereafter is for those who are muttaqeen. And this is witnessed by Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his ummah, that we see Quraysh challenge and fought the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam so much, and in the end Islam prevails, and it is here till this day. And every day people are coming to Islam in large amount of numbers. And so in the end, those who have taqwa will prevail. You know, where where are Abu Jahl or Abu Lahab or Utbah ibn Rabi or Umayyah ibn Khalaf? Where are those people who used to fight Islam and fight the Prophet ﷺ, persecute them, kill some of the companions, and in the end, even some of their own children became Muslims. Their own children became Muslims. And so, verse 129, Allah tells us, قَالُوا أُوذِينَا مِنْ قَبْلِ من قبل أن تأتينا ومن بعد ما جئتنا قال عسى ربكم أن يهلك عدوكم ويستخلفكم في الأرض فينظر كيف تعملون. And so the children of Israel, they said, we, the children of Israel, were persecuted before you came to us and after you came to us. So we were in this tremendous persecution of Pharaoh. And he said, Prophet Musa said to them, it may be that your Lord will destroy your enemy and make you successors on earth. And then he will see how you will conduct yourself. So it may be that Allah will destroy your enemy Pharaoh and his henchmen and make you successors on earth, and then he will see how you conduct yourself, because this earth is owned by Allah, and so he gives it to whom he pleases, whenever he pleases, whatever amount he pleases. And we are being tested whether we have it or we are deprived of it. So قالوا أوذينا من قبل أن تأتينا ومن بعد ما جئتنا. So Bani Israel is responding to Prophet Musa alayhi salam that they were already persecuted by Pharaoh by killing their sons and leaving their daughters alive. And this was when Musa alayhi salam was a baby. Now, after the message came to them, the same chastisement is coming to them again. And what is more cruel than killing people's sons, keep people children, even your any of your children, someone kills, how brutal that is. And he responded to them by way of hope, and not speaking about demanding what will happen. قال عسى ربكم أن يهلك عدوكم وَيَسْتَخْلِفَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَيَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ. So in a very hopeful way, he said, it may be that your Lord will destroy your enemy and make you the successor on earth, and then he will test you as well too. So Pharaoh has gotten his test, and his army has gotten their test. But could be that Allah is now shifting the tide, that he's going to finish off with them, and you will now be tested. So don't behave like how Pharaoh behaved. Okay? And this is the adab when speaking about Allah, what Allah will do. That perhaps, that maybe, hopefully. But the important thing here is فَيَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ, and Allah will watch and see how you will perform. So my dear brothers and sisters, dear viewers, one has to be very careful that authority, it's a test. And he reminds them that authority on earth is a test from Allah. Sometimes you feel that, yes, the Muslim Ummah is being oppressed and suppressed and persecuted and so forth. And Allah can change that. But when he changes and he gives the Muslim authority, are they going to behave like those dictators? Are they going to behave like Pharaoh and his army? So that is a very powerful statement that Prophet Musa made. And he gives nation authority. Allah gives nations authority, then he caused them to fade away. As he says, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَيَتَّخِذَ مِنْكُمْ شُهَدَاءَ وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الظَّالِمِينَ. And these are the days of varying conditions. We alternate among people, so that Allah may make evident those who believe, and may take to himself from among you martyrs. And Allah does not like the wrongdoers, the oppressors. So these are the days that are Allah alternate. One day is against you, and one day is for you. And he makes this that he tests us. And Allah does not like the wrongdoers. Whoever that zalim comes from, Whether the zalim believes in Allah or the zalim does not believe in Allah, Allah does not love the zalim. So this is something that we need to understand, that authority is an amana. Then verse 30, وَلَقَدْ أَخَذْنَا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ بِالسِّنِينَ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَذَّكَّرُونَ. So now punishment begins to come, because um, uh, Prophet Musa and the children of Israel were helpless. And so Allah is saying, and indeed we punish the people of Pharaoh with years of drought and poor harvest, so that they perhaps they could take some heed. So they're now being put through toughness from Allah. So all this big talk and how powerful they are, now Allah start to inflict on them some initial punishment. And all of this is happening while Prophet Musa was still with them. And this is important to know, that trials come to all. But Pharaoh and his folks will face the brunt of it, as they were not tested like this ever before. So now, after all these years of brutal leadership, now they're going to get, the brunt of what they dealt with the Prophet Musa and the children of Israel. Now they're going to face some of that punishment. So these trials are other signs of Allah's power, in addition to what He had already given to Prophet Musa. Remember his hand? He took out his hand and it became like a light, and the stick that turned into a serpent. So, in addition to that sign that they have failed, now more signs and more evidences are coming to them. So, first it was drought, or even if the rain falls, the land does not produce. So the whole idea was for them to surrender to Allah and not to walk the land as if they are the ultimate power. So Allah is showing them now, first of all, there's drought. And in drought, you don't get food, you don't get water, your animals go, your crops grow. And even if the rain came, it was not a drinkable water, and it is not water that will cause plant to grow. And now, when this happened, verse 31, 131, Allah is telling us how they are beginning to start blaming. فَإِذَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْحَسَنَةُ قَالُوا لَنَا هَذِهِ وَإِن تُصِبْهُمْ سَيِّئَةٌ يَطَّيَّرُوا بِمُوسَى وَمَن مَّعَهُ أَلَا إِنَّمَا طَائِرُهُمْ عِندَ اللَّهِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But when good comes to them, they say, this is what we deserve. Oh, the zalim, when some good comes, oh man, we are, this is what we who we are. We are powerful. We do this, we do that. And if evil afflicted them, they blame it on Musa and those with him. That is the children of Israel. They say, you are the people that caused all this misfortune on us. Your presence is what all this issues of drought and our plants are not growing because of you. And surely their misfortune has been decreed by Allah, but most of them do not know, because only Allah He is the nafi and He is the dar. He is the one who can bring benefit, and He is the one who can cause any harm. And so this is a very cheap way to blame others. And this is a sickness of the soul, that when good befalls, they think it is from themselves. And when evil befalls, they blame Musa and those who are with him. And Allah says, Allah innama ta'iruhum indallah walakin aksarahum la ya'lamun. Surely their misfortune has been decreed by Allah, but most of them do not know. And everything we understand, what comes as good and what comes as calamity, is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He brings it on upon whomever He wishes, whether to test them or to punish them. And 132, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, وَقَالُوا مَهْمَا تَأْتِنَا بِهِ مِنْ آيَةٍ لِتَسْحَرَنَا بِهَا فَمَا نَحْنُ لَكَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. They said to Moses, no matter what sign you may bring to enchant us with, we will never believe in you. So now imagine these are people, you can imagine the hardness of their heart. They got defeated. Their magicians turned to Allah and became Muslims. They are seeing signs upon signs that they cannot withstand. And they are saying now, come on, bring it on. Whatever sign you want to bring to, you think you're gonna make us enchanted and bring magic upon us, like this is something like we didn't know. We will never believe in you, no matter what you bring. Obviously, they will come to eat back these same words. They will come to swallow their own arrogance. And this is the extreme of rejection. Now, brothers and sisters, you might want to say, well, in this life, it's a short life, but we hear about the hereafter as everlasting. How can this short life, rejecting Allah, be an everlasting punishment? And here it is, we are seeing that what people who reject Allah in midst of all the signs that are there with them, and this Quran is the sign of this Muslim ummah, and people are cursing out at Allah, at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at the Quran, at Muslims, at our institutions, at our sha'air, our symbols in Islam, in spite of all the evidence that are there with them, they curse out Allah. They curse out the Muslims. They curse everything that is Islam. They curse out. And how can such a people, having seen miracle in the case of Musa, it was what they are seeing now. In the case of our ummah, it is the Quran that stands as evidence. If they were only to read the Quran, how much guidance they will find in this Quran. And so when you hear about the punishment of the hereafter being khalidina fiha abada, it will be everlasting, because there is no turning back when you become so pompous about your rejection of Allah, so arrogant about your rejection of Allah. This is the extreme of rejection, calling the truth magic, and totally refuse to accept, even if punishment and sign is happening to them. They are so much into saying that this is magic, and we are not going to believe in you no matter what. And so it is an important for us to take lessons when you see punishment comes. Verse 133, فأرسلنا عليهم الطوفان والجراد والقمل والضفادع والدم آيات مفصلات فاستكبروا وكانوا قوما مجرمين. So in addition to all the signs and punishment that had already come to them, we send them flood, we send them locusts, lice, frog, blood, that even their water became blood. Obvious signs, but they remained arrogant and were a wicked people. Now, one of these signs alone should humble people. Okay? When such people reject Allah, He showed them power, and these are some of the type of punishment that befall them. Floods that affected only Pharaoh and his people, locusts. This weak insect can destroy their crop. They are so powerful. Pharaoh فَحَشَرَ فَنَادَى فَقَالَ أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. He gathered people and said, I'm your Lord, Most High, so what's your problem? And so this locust, who is a weak insect, if you hold a locust in your hand, it's so weak, and that locust will come and destroy your crops, your food that you eat, lice and bugs. And yet, even how small are lice and bugs, but yet they're very irritating. The bugs in your skin, or lice in your hair, how they irritate you, and you keep scratching, and it irritates you. Frogs everywhere in their pots. When they open their pot, they find frog in their food, so they can't even eat their own food. And it was only for the unjust people, that is for Pharaoh and his people. Blood, their water became blood. So, despite all these signs, they rejected and remained arrogant. Then comes 134. ولما وقع عليهم الرجس قالوا يا موسى ادع لنا ربك بما عهد عندك لئن كشفت عنا الرجس لنؤمنن لك ولنرسلن معك بني إسرائيل. So now, after all of this start to come to them one after the other, 9 signs came to them. And when the punishment befell them, they begged, O Moses, pray to your Lord for us because of the promise he made with you. So even they're begging for mercy, they're still arrogant. Look at the wording. That, O Moses, pray to your Lord for us because of the promise that he made with you. And if you were to remove this punishment from us, we will believe in you and we will let the children of Israel go with you. You think this is true coming from wicked people like them? So they are now, so when they were overtaken by all these punishment, they begin to beg Prophet Musa alayhi salam for dua. And they know that all is coming from Allah and they have no place with Allah. They cannot lift their hands now because they have rejected, and in their heart they are still rejected. But they beg Musa alayhi salam, pray for us, just pray for us, and we will do 2 things. We take oath we are going to do 2 things, that we're going to believe and we will let the children of Israel go. Well, good luck. So 135 tells us, فَلَمَّا كَشَفْنَا عَنْهُمُ الرِّجْسَ إِلَىٰ أَجْلٍ هُمْ بَالِغُوهُ إِذَا هُمْ يَنْكُثُونَ. But when we removed the punishment from them after its term was completed, they at once broke their promise. This is a true qualities of hypocrites and evil people. They broke all their promises. We're going to believe in you? No way. We're going to let the children of Israel go? No way. So when they were relieved, they broke their promise. And so what else can you expect to happen from evil people? But Allah gave some more time. Allah gave them a little more rope. So they think, oh, we now have authority again. So now they were begging Musa for help because they felt weakened. Now those things are gone. They feel back. Oh, we are powerful once again. And they have not learned anything. فانتقمنا منهم فأغرقناهم في اليم بأنهم كذبوا بآياتنا وكانوا عنها غافلين. So we got them back by inflicting on them punishment, and we drowned them in the sea, for they had willfully denied our sign and were heedless of them. So they broke every promise that they made. They turned away from Allah. In fact, when the punishment was removed from them, when that their punishment one after the other came, and they were so fed up with it, oh, make dua. And once they were relieved, now they felt they were strong again, and this is where Allah took them down. And so when we hear this, people rejecting Allah to this level, and we don't know what goes on in people's minds. Sometimes, yes, we feel sympathy for people, and we ought to give them dawah. We ought to invite them to Islam, and we have to show them the goodness of what this religion tells us about, of uprightness, truthfulness, justice, and all the good things about Islam. But if they reject and they are using what authority they have to turn against Allah, then look what happened to Pharaoh. Just look what has happened to Pharaoh. And this is a story that is in the Bible. This is a story that is in the Torah. This is a story that is in the Quran. This is a story that is in the history, that people know this what happened to Pharaoh. And so this was their final destruction. A man who claimed that he was God, the Most High, ended up at the bottom of the sea, whether it was the Red Sea, according to some of Mufassirin, or the Nile. And then 137, Allah tells us, وَأَوْرَثْنَا الْقَوْمَ الَّذِينَ كَانُوا يُسْتَضْعَفُونَ مَشَارِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَمَغَارِبَهَا التي باركنا فيها وتمت كلمة ربك الحسنى على بني إسرائيل بما صبروا ودمرنا ما كان يصنع فرعون وقومه وما كانوا يعرشون. So Allah is telling us we caused those people who were believed to be weak, that is the Israelites, to inherit the east and the west of the land that we had blessed. And the good word or the decree of your Lord was fulfilled for the children of Israel because of what they patiently endured. We eventually brought down ruin, all the great works and structures that Pharaoh and his people had built. All the buildings that they built were gone from them. And it was inherited by people who they would never dream of inheriting. And this is a good news to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help him and his ummah the way he did for Prophet Musa and the children of Israel. Unfortunately, when authority comes to people, my dear brothers and sisters, sometime when that authority comes, they also behave very much like how you find Pharaoh behave and his generals behave. And so these are lessons for all of humanity. And we hope and pray that Allah guide us to what is right and save us from being victims of Pharaoh and save us from being the attitude of Pharaoh and his generals. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. So jazakumullah khair. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Abdur Rahman. Thank you so much for this, these insights and lessons that we could take from these verses. There are a couple of questions. The first one is that as you mentioned, that Pharaoh and his leaders, and the Quran is very clear in saying that they claimed that Musa alayhi salam was really, they were alleging that Musa was spreading the corruption, while we know that it was actually them who were spreading the corruption. Can you please elaborate on like what type of corruption was Pharaoh spreading, and was it just like corruption in the physical sense or in the spiritual sense as well?
Both. So Pharaoh was a corrupt human being, very corrupt human being, a human being who felt that he was uh, God, that the rivers of Egypt were running because of his command, that he owned these children of Israel and there were generations of enslavement. He felt that he had power to do whatever he wanted to do. He corrupted by injustice, and injustice is one of the highest corruption after shirk with Allah. So these are the corruption that he and obviously his henchmen were prodding him on. Go, go, go. Do this to them. Do that to them. You are powerful. We are all powerful people. They enjoy that with Pharaoh as well too. So they continue this both their belief system as well as their attitude as well as their interaction with with the children of Israel. So that corruption they are putting now that, oh, we are the good people, we are the upright people, we are the people of justice, despite, so they cannot even see. And this is a huge problem. If you know you're wrong, you can do tawbah. If you know you are wrong, you can rectify yourself. But if you fool yourself to the point to say, I am right, and you kill people, you torture them, You hang them up on a cross. You do all of these things, and you still feel that you are on the straight path, you are on the right path. And the man who came to say there is a Lord, there is a creator, he sent me with certain signs to prove to you that I am coming with his authority, with his message, and so forth. And you are turning to that man and said, you are the corrupt man. You can imagine the level of their inner evil. I don't know what words more to say, that how evil and corrupt these people are. And they're turning that on Musa, who bring the message of Tawheed, or the oneness of Allah.
Yes. And why were they so afraid or resistant to accept that message of Tawheed?
Yes, good question. So they are so resistant to that message, like leaders of today are resistant to allow Muslims to say about Islam and to invite people to Islam. Because what happens, Islam talks about justice. We're not talking about the individual here or the leader there or this one here and this one. We're talking about what Allah sent in the Quran. And so, if Muslims are not stepping up to the right action, we also are going to be guilty on the day of judgment that we did not carry out our message in the best possible manner. But Islam talks about justice. In fact, the Prophet came to establish justice in society. So, if like Abu Jahl and the rest of them in Mecca, they were afraid that if they became Muslim, what will happen to their authority? How would they control the money? How will they control the power? Because they know if we become Muslims, they know what it means, that we have to now surrender to Allah, Allah's laws. Our laws will no longer be important. And so you find that Pharaoh and his people were very, very worried. What will happen to their authority if they were to give in to Prophet Musa and the children of Israel, and obviously his brother, Prophet Aaron, Prophet Harun?
Yeah. So now, just drawing a parallel to today, and from our perspective within our Muslim community, do we see any parallels where we may be at a smaller level, but we may still be falling into the same trap of doing something wrong and then trying to justify it?
Yeah, I mean, this is going on also rampantly at various level, and the level of where people see power, money, authority, to feel that they now have uh, the the right. They are on the right, and we see that in our masajid sometimes. Both person claiming that they are right. We see that in our sometimes in organizations, that both people feel that they're right. We see it in Muslim countries. Both people say that they're right. So this conflict and this, ability to accept that, okay, I'm wrong, is also like a pharaonic behavior. Because when Pharaoh was presented with the challenge, and in fact he was the one who called for the challenge, and he lost, he could not say, and he did not have the gut to say, well, look, I'm wrong, I surrender. Musa won, and it's a fair game, and let's believe. He cannot do that, although it is as clear as daylight that his magicians were able to see it. So sometimes this ego start to behave like Pharaoh. And when the ego becomes like Pharaoh, that rather than looking at the outside, we look at our own lives as Muslims, that we also behave in a pharaonic manner, that we do not accept that we are wrong. We do not make apologies. Rather, people prefer to break up. People prefer to take a matter to the court when it is a simple issue. like simple issue. The magicians lost, the Pharaoh's magician lost. Musa won, a simple issue. But it ended up that they were martyred and put on a cross. Pharaoh became even more angry, and he made punishment for them, and he went after them until he was drowned. So we also have to take lesson from that. Remember, Quran is not for somebody else. And this is also another mistake that we make. When we read the Quran, we go to these tafsir every week. I don't think our message is so much for other people as it is starting from our own selves. And we have to shape up. We have to accept this message, and we have to understand this message. Because if we don't have that message of Islam and message of the Quran, it is very difficult that we take it to somebody else. And so we can always call people Pharaoh when in fact we ourselves are pharaohs.
So true and so tragic. Uh, so now we see a parallel here, that in this example, like these verses mention that there were so many different miracles came, different ways they were tested, and then they were, granted mercy from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and they came out of those punishments that they had, temporary ones. So they were given ample time, but when the time was up, their punishment came very swiftly, um,
Yes.
and it was decisive. And we see this in other examples given in the Quran as well. And so, what lessons, again, like applying to ourselves, can we take from that?
Yeah. So again, powerful people, powerful nation. Um, Things can happen rapidly, and uh, and the reason why it's happening rapidly, because if it happens slowly, then you're going into another generation of people, whereas this generation is the one that has been given the ample time, and so Allah brings it down upon a particular generation of people, and so that punishment comes very swiftly. It can come overnight. It can come in a volcano, it can come in a hurricane, it can come in a landslide, it can come in an earthquake, it can come in a tsunami, it can come in a flooding, it can come in a drought. A long list of things can happen overnight, and and the whole society, the whole country, the whole region can be affected by one thing that can happen overnight. And we are seeing it. We are seeing that we can wake up one day, and by the end of the day, that society doesn't exist, because there was a tsunami, there was an earthquake, there was this, there was that, and it just happens so swiftly. Before you know it, it's past tense. And then sometimes we become arrogant and said, oh, we will overcome that. When you talk this kind of language with Allah, remember, Allah is all powerful. Yes, we will try to overcome, but we will also take the lesson. I remember things happen in our country here. There was flooding, and there was, you know, mass destruction and so forth in flooding. And one mayor said that, this is the hand of God, and he had to apologize for that. Why did you say this is the hand of God? We don't need to say this is the hand of God. This is nature. So who controls nature? Pharaoh will say nature, that's why he drowned. Once people start to challenge Allah, this is where Allah gives them a time, and then he comes and punishes them. And so we have to understand that these happened to nations before us. It happens as recent to other nations. It happened to our nation. It happens the whole world. This is Allah's creation, and He has nothing to lose when He brings about a punishment on people. And the punishment, وَلَنُذِيقَنَّهُم مِّنَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَدْنَى دُونَ الْعَذَابِ الْأَكْبَرِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. We give them a nearer punishment, meaning a punishment in this world, before the punishment of the bigger punishment, which is the hereafter, so that they can return back to Allah. And I really wish that when any disaster happen anywhere in this world, before we start to flex our muscle and say we will build back, we will this, we will overcome, just say humble. Whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whether you're Jew, once you're a human being, say, well, we have learned a lesson from this, that things can happen, things can change, and I think it's a lesson for all of us. Let's reflect, let's be calm. Something that humble yourself, not to show pompousness that, oh, we can do this again and this is no problem. We got $100 billion destruction and we were able to build back. Come on, who are we?
Jazakallah khair. And the last verse that we studied today, right? It was mentioning that then the oppressed were given victory over their oppressors. Now, the 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 these people that they got the victory now, and they inherited the land, but was that permanent or was that conditional? Because if did they ever deviate again, and did they face more consequences for that?
Yeah, obviously everything is temporary. Allah gives them authority to see how they will behave, and Allah will judge them on how they behave. Did they behave with goodness and kindness and with justice, or did they behave just like Pharaoh? You see, in George Orwell book Animal Farm, uh, it was a very interesting book. We did that book in for literature, and it's a book where the animals felt that the human beings were bad. Okay, and so they fought against the human being and they won, so they were able to control the animal farm. They were, so the pigs and the horses and all the birds and fowl and so forth, they were all in charge. Once they became in charge, they start to behave perhaps even worse than the human being. So in the beginning, when they were fighting with the slogan, four leg good, two leg bad, the meaning if you had four legs, uh, you were an animal, you're good, and two legs, the human being were bad. When they became and they took control, they sing a different tune. Four legs good, but two legs better, because they start to walk on two legs like the human being, and they behave worse than the human being when they you know uh, got into authority. Similarly, the book with the Mexican Revolution called Los de Abajo. Los de Abajo, it tells you that you struggle against a government. You struggle to say, oh, they oppress you, they do this to you, they do that to you. And when you do all the struggle and you put those people in authority, they treat you worse, equally or worse than the previous people that were there. And so Los de Abajo means the underdogs. So you're the underdogs, you're fighting for a struggle, and you end up worse than what you were before. So authority is given. Authority is given to people who are weak, but then Allah tests you. Are you going to behave like that, what you have done before? And so, my dear viewers, this authority is a very, very, very troublesome area that people fight tooth and nail. Imagine how many masjid end up in court. Allah gives one group, and then that group turns against the, whether it's equal to or even worse than the group before. Countries have that same issue. People have those same issues. Family have those same issues. And so we really have to have iman. And so وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. You really have to have taqwa to manage authority. Other than that, you can behave very much like those before you. May Allah save us and protect us from that.
I mean, Jazakallah khair. So, Sheikh will end with this. Maybe you can just give the main takeaways from today's verses and maybe close with the dua, inshallah.
Yeah, so the main thing is that people whose heart are so hard and arrogant and rejectors of Allah, um, whatever test Allah gives to them, whatever sign comes to them, in the end, their ego, their arrogance will overtake them. And even if they get into a punishment and they get out of it in that punishment, they will say, oh, I wish I get out of this, I will do so. When Allah relieve them, they turn back into attacking those who believe, and attacking uh, you know um, their own souls by saying, no, no, we are not going to carry out this belief anymore, and whatever uh, promises they make, they will break all. And it is what it is. And we are living in a world that examples are not short whatsoever. We ask Allah to bless us, to have mercy on us, to save this world, to let this world be a place of peace. And as we start a new year, I hope and pray that the pandemic will go away from us, that this year will be a year of peace, that the wars that are going on all over this world will finish, and that peace will prevail, and lands that are taken away from people will be returned back to them. And we hope and pray that this year will bring better for all of us. Subhanakallahumma wa
Ameen.
bihamdik, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayka. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum assalam.